Okay, conscious of time, I think we'll get started, guys. So first of all, welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is the second session of our GPT series. So this is going to be covering GenAI Made Easy, no code deployment in minutes with Helix GPT. So I'm fortunate to be joined by a different presenter this time. So Madhav is going to introduce himself very shortly. And we've also got Des that's going to talk about the BMC strategy around GPT. Just a couple of reminders before we get started. You have the Q&A section of Zoom, so that's at the bottom. If you have any questions during the slides or any of the demos, please put them in there. We will try to answer them during the session, and then we will have roughly around 15 minutes at the end to answer anything Q&A wise. Madhav, if we can just move to the next slide, because there's going to be some roadmap pieces covered. It's just a reminder that we have the legal notice. So if you can just review this, be aware some of this content that we're sharing, there is no guarantee. So with that, I'm going to now hand over to our first presenter for an introduction. Over to you, Des.
Hey, hi everyone. Yeah, so thanks for joining the call today. I'm glad to see we used my beautiful avatar there. Looks just like me. Can you move to the next slide, please, Madhav? All right. So if we think about AI today, it's obviously becoming a prominent force in everything we do. And if you think about when Garry Kasparov was first beaten by Big Blue, when he was playing chess, and the waves of sort of doubt that it sent through the industry, people thought, wow, this is going to change the world. He's come out in favor of AI, saying, people who don't adopt or take on AI are going to be replaced by people who do. And BMC and myself, I firmly believe the same thing. However, it's not going to just make our lives easier. It's going to make our lives faster and more automated. Next slide, please, Madhav. So if we think about the impact of AI in our lives today, it's ubiquitous, right? It's been something that's been involved from before the mobile phone. However, my first, I suppose, foray into it was when I first picked up my old mobile phone and started typing in text with the keypad and having to press S 4 times to get a number or to get a letter, and then the phone would come up with predictive text, right? First, a very early form of AI predicting what is happening. And now, when I travel to work, when I travel to customer sites, when I fill out emails, when I start doing any kind of work, I've got AI in the background that is fundamentally helping me to make my job easier. And likewise, everyone else, right? AI is included in everything we do. Now, if we talk about the industries today, Google, one of the big players there, is spending heavy amounts in this space. But why are they doing that? Well, if you're trying to get self-driving vehicles to move on the road safely, the big problem that you've got is it's got to understand huge amounts of data in real time and be able to make decisions based on that data, right? AI is the only way that we can do that. And I mean, you think about huge amounts of data, we're talking petabytes of data, right? Microsoft spending huge amounts in this space. They're investing in ChatGPT, they're investing in OpenAI, they're investing in their own platforms. But they're using their platforms for customer service. They're using their platforms for fraud detection, those kinds of things. You've got Adobe tool sets like that are starting to really affect the way that we work in the medical field, where we're using imaging in a medical way to understand probably better now than human doctors, where you may have a problem within a human being based on hundreds of thousands of images that have been developed in the past. And my favorite, I use a tool called Vimeo, which is helping me to develop videos. Right, part of my day-to-day job is creating videos, creating content for customers, for partners, and to show our tool sets and how they work. And the big thing with them is typically I would have to spend a lot of time. I'd have to record a demo. I'd have to recut. I'd have to make sure my voice is clear. There was a lot of work that needs to happen. All I do now is I simply type up the talk track. Actually, I go to GPT, ask it to type up my talk track. I then make it more BMC-fied. I then put that talk track into Vimeo, and I say, go and build me the video. I then put my demo into that video, and off I go. So it's a huge time-saving effort for me. And this is something that's going to be time-saving for you as our customers and our partners at the same time. Next slide, please, Nadav. So how does that apply to BMC? BMC is no different in this space, right? We have been heavily invested in the space for a long time. I've been around BMC for 10 years, and in those 10 years, I've seen that we've already had machine learning in the products from back then, right? And as it's evolved, we've evolved with it, right? We've taken on the causal, the predictive analytics, and applied that into our Helix platform. Now, those two tool sets, those two types of AI on their own are great, but they give you a great report and they give you a great of what's the problem, but they don't tell you how to fix the problem. Now, if we start taking on the generative AI, which is what we're doing in this space, we can then start looking at how we fix the problem and actually telling you how to do it. Okay, so looking at what is the problem, what is the cause of that problem, and how to fix it, closes the loop within the service knob space. Okay, now the way it works is fairly simple, right? We're leveraging the large language models that are out there today, the GPT-4os, the GPT-4 turbos, and so on, which have been pre-trained with huge amounts of internet data. Now, that internet data is great, but the problem is it goes out of date because those models are trained and then they're stored, right? They're not trained on top of any additional data. Now, you can do that. You can go and do additional fine-tuning and fine-training, but the problem with that is it's quite expensive to do and a lot of process, and you've got to do a lot of admin around it. So what we do is we say, well, we're going to overlay the data. We're going to put the data from the BMC platform in our BMC platform, and we're simply going to call on the AI to do what it needs to do to provide us the natural language understanding, to provide us with the logic, to provide us with the reasoning that we need, and give us an answer and some insights into what we're doing. So the BMC platform will ingest the AI ops data. It will ingest the DevOps data. It will ingest the ITSM data, keep it within your Helix tenant, okay, and then provide that data out into the different product sets that we have. Okay, so you talk about virtual agent, you talk about digital workplace, you talk about ITSM, you talk about even AI ops. We are able to leverage all of that data with the large language models that are applied to you to then provide insights, as in change risk use cases and virtual agent use cases and best action recommendation kinds of use cases, and some of the things that Madav is going to talk to you about today. All right. So as we look at how Helix GPT works, what it gives us is sort of 6 key areas where we spend our time, and 6 things that are really important to us and to our customers. First thing is aggregation of data. AI is top class that. It knows how to understand data at scale, analyze any patterns, and give me out sort of insights into the patterns. Right? This is something that we've had in our platform since 21.3, I think it was, where we were able to look at real-time data from tickets and start predicting where you may have major incidents occurring. Also, taking that data in a retrospective view and looking at applying it to your problem management process, right? What common problems have occurred, how were they resolved, and how can we fix them in the future? Summarization of data, it's a fairly common use case around generative AI, looking at swaths of data and coming back with a succinct sort of set of steps or a series of information that you may need, right? Summarization is great, especially if I've got hundreds of thousands of tickets. I've looked at the common problems, and I'm looking at all those problems, looking at all the notes of those problems, and summarizing and saying, well, this is how that problem was solved in simple natural language. Really, really powerful use case. Surfacing of data. The most important thing for me is right information at the right time in the right context, right? Because everyone can create a report, and often everyone does. But how often are those reports reused, right? Very, 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 very often they're created, they're left, and no one even uses them again. You want to be able to have the ability to look at the report or create a report on the fly, interrogate the report when it's in front of you, and then look at the next one. Okay, so give you the right insights when you need them. Now, if you think about having huge amounts of data and all the resolutions that we've had in the past, based on all the AI ops data, based on all the tickets data that we've got, what that gives you is the ability to look at what is the actions that you've taken, right? So when I've got a ticket in front of me, when I've got a situation that's occurred in front of me, how do I fix that situation? I would normally, as a human being, look at look at my historical experiences and try and figure out what actions I should take to bring my service back up, to fix my ticket. But if I've got all that data, the AI is able to start recommending the right ticket data to me to be able to deliver the response I need, right? So should I have an outage? What do I need to do? Do I need to restart the service? Do I need to run a script? Do I need to run a series of manual steps? Where does the knowledge exist to do that, right? And the recommendation of those steps is really, really powerful, and helps to get the L1, L2 people to reduce your MTTR. Conversational experience. We're all using, or I'm certainly using ChatGPT and Vertex all the time, especially in the space of understanding what I need to do for my day-to-day job, right? Helping me to get information and so on. Same thing applies. Our customers, your customers, are needing to be able to converse with an agent because they want to be able to solve their problems faster, right? And the only way of doing that is by pumping it full of knowledge, pointing the AI at it and saying, hey, if you want knowledge, go here. If you want to go with service requests, go here. If you're looking for ITSM data, go here. And the AI is able to have that conversation, have that rational, have the understanding of where the data is, what the context is, and give the answer, the correct answer when the user needs it. And then lastly, the coup de grace, right? This is what generative AI is, the ability to create new content. Now, what's important is, if I've got all my ticket data that's out there, I've got all my resolution data that's out there, and I've been able to understand that data, and I may have a lot of knowledge that's out there, we can start to compare and say, well, look at your knowledge base today. Look at how these articles have been solved, these things have been solved in the past. What are the similarities? Should we create a new knowledge article? Should we update the knowledge article? Should we go and create a report to fix the problem, right? This gives us a lot more information on actually solving the problem. Like I said, doing something about it. And last but not least, right? If I think about the AIOps, the use case where I need to bring something back up, I can create code, right? We can on the fly create something that will help to in a situation bring that service back to life, that you can then continue on your path of actually delivering your service. Next slide, please, Madam. I think it's over to you.
Thank you, Des. So I think Des covered a lot of ground already. So I'll go quickly through some of the slides and then go into a product demo. So we are familiar with this slide. Hopefully you've seen it in the past, that on the left-hand side, sorry, move too quickly. On the left-hand side, we have the BMC Helix data lake, right? And what we are adding is the purple box, where given a prompt and the context, it can respond, the LLM can respond to us with those use cases we discussed. So this is the benefit. This is the core of the discussion today, how quick you can configure this, right? So we have deployed some use cases across personas. So for end users and process users, they can converse with the virtual agent today. That's generally available. They can have prediction of emerging issues, right? And we can summarize live chat conversations or incidents at the end, and that saves a lot of busy time for the workers, right? We can also recommend root causes or next actions for AIOps and ITSM. What's actively being built is a supervision capability, a creation capability, which we will show you mock-ups about that in the future. And there's a call to action for that in the end. And then what we are planning in strategy that is about 6 to 12 months away is, right, can you coach an agent through a conversation, right? Can we give some peer insights, which is anonymized data, to say, hey, your live chat queues are experiencing peak load at this time, and that's because of this reason. Maybe your knowledge articles are taking longer to find, right? And then maybe adaptive routing and so on. So I want to show one or two more slides here. We are gradually pivoting to a large action model approach. So if you have seen Helix GPT Manager in the past, and I'll show it to you again, that has a prompt-based approach. We have to write the prompts that define the capability that model has. So in live chat, I have a summarization prompt, right? In chatbot, I have a apply for leave prompt. So what we are going to do is go to the next level. So here you see employee navigator. That's literally saying we have an agent which will go figure out from the catalog and the knowledge services what action to take. And it will write that code and will generate that workflow and will execute it for you. Similarly, on knowledge curator, right, we will look for obsoleted, archived, out-of-date knowledge articles or suggest knowledge articles, changes to knowledge articles. On the dashboards, we will going to have a data scientist. I'll show you some mock-ups of these in the future, right? And the goal is to have this easily connected to your Helix knowledge sources plus other knowledge sources that your organization may be using. So SharePoint and Confluence are available today, and we are going to add these big cloud providers like Databricks and Snowflake in the near future, right? And then it will also connect out to your Copilot. If your organization must be testing Copilot in some way or the other, Copilot offers an additional capability called Copilot Studio that allows you to say, hey, Copilot, for a certain topic, go to this vendor, right? So imagine you are in your spreadsheet creating a report like Des was talking about, and you say, what was my resolution rate for live chat or my average wait time for live chat in the last 6 months? You could ask Copilot that, and then it will take that topic as a ITSM topic. It will go over to Helix GPT, fetch the answer and plug it in, right? So that's the vision we are working on that. And this will all be available through your different cloud providers as well, right? So we'll talk about that in the future. So very quickly going through these slides, the situation summary is generally available. You've seen that. Resolution Insights is generally available for 6 months now. You've seen that. The prompt manager is where I'm going to go next. So this is generally available. I want to show some updates on this. This is the real meat of the presentation today, which is our GPT Manager, right? So if you have not seen this earlier, the GPT Manager is a new tool available inside Helix Innovation Studio. This is, as usual, a tenant-specific deployment, right? No other client has access to your data. It is constrained by your role-based access, right? And when you launch it, you can see all our different applications that can have a GPT feature, the ones that Des had mentioned. So let's start with something simple. Live chat has a summarization skill, right? So we give you these out-of-the-box skills that you can then customize, right? So what does the live chat? The first thing you do is select a model. So today, this one is configured to use like a BMC tuned Llama 2 model. You could switch it out to a Azure provider and a different model. And it's your endpoints. You are bringing your own API key. It's your security. So if your legal or security teams have any questions on how BMC Helix will use Azure, right? We've seen a variety of those questions between Des, me, and other people. We can help you answer it. So reach out to your account manager and say, hey, we have these 4 questions about Azure, and we'll definitely connect you and help you understand how to use this, right? One thing I want to show you here is also in the new upcoming release in August, we will do a controlled availability release for Google Gemini APIs. And by November, we expect it to be generally available. So that becomes now an option for you. Certain companies have a preference for Google or have a budget on Google Private Cloud. So you'll be able to use that, retire that quota, so to speak, right? Versus buying more from Azure. So this is going to be a very competitive space. I'm going to show you something later on over here, right? So then you have your prompt. So I am telling live chat, summarize my conversation through this prompt, right? And the way you see this one, it says instruction, generate a summary for this chat conversation, right? That's it. It's very simple. Now you may want to add text like, remove any profanity, right? Remove any abusive language, because maybe you don't want that in your summary if it's already in the chat log, right? So that's the summarization skill. Now let's go to a more complex skill, which is virtual agent, right? So in virtual agent as well, you can create multiple skills. So for example, here is my Azure GPT skill, which has, if you go through it, there's hundreds of prompts that have been added to it, right? So we give you certain prompts out of the box, and you are able to tune them. So for example, the router prompt, right, is something you can easily change. The goal from BMC is to help you get going very quickly without having to write complex code. Okay, so we are giving you this router code, which like if once you're familiar with it, you will start understanding the data structure and modifying it. But this will take the user's message and transfer it to the next prompt. So maybe the next prompt is here, add a family member, right? This prompt has also been generated by BMC, right? Again, you are not writing this from scratch. We are generating it using a template. HelixGPT is actually, we are making an LLM call to generate it, right? So this prompt then instructs the LLM and the chatbot how to handle a question. So let me switch over to the chatbot itself, right? So this is my chatbot. I mean, I was just testing it earlier. I asked a question. When I ask a question, how do I connect to my printer? It has answered it by combining a couple of knowledge articles, right? Let me refresh it and start a new conversation, right? And I say, I want to add my, let's say, John to my family group, okay? So at this point, in a typical development scenario, right, you would be going to Azure portal, setting up your APIs and figuring out the Helix APIs and the authentication, and does Madhav have access to add a family member group or all, right? And none of that is needed. That's all inherited. It knows I am, in this case, it knows I'm Scott, right? And Scott has access to the add family member service in the catalog. So it's able to execute it. And it starts walking through this use case. So if I quickly just go back to the GPT manager, right? We have told the system, collect the parameters, right? Ask for parameters if the answer is not in the history. I've given the name, it's not going to ask me for the name, right? So you see, it didn't ask me for the name of the user. It went to the second question, ask the relationship. And here, if a little nerdy thing, it's actually mapping those to the catalog service field IDs. So that's what we are doing in the background, right? Without you having to write any of this code, we are allowing you to bring a service to the chatbot with a few clicks, right? We generate this prompt and it's ready to run, right? You can, of course, test it. And this is an interesting point, by the way. If you see here, it asked me to confirm John's gender, right? You might say, well, it could have assumed it was a male child because the name is John, right? Now, this is something we can put in the prompt. We can say, if you're confident about the gender, skip it. And then based on your locale or certain names, like somebody says the name is Rebel. I don't know, Rebel is a child, as a child is a boy or a girl, right? So we are then making a judgment call. We're asking the LLM to make a judgment call. And that can be done through any of these prompts that we were talking about. Call, right? You can insert this into the prompt here, right? So if it says here, I can add, or if you are confident about the gender, right? And I would save this. So this is the kind of editing, that's all the kind of editing I should say you will need to do. You're not going to have to write any code. You will not have to.
Madhav, do you want to maybe come off camera?
Dialogue, right?
Madhav, can you hear me? There's been a little bit of a delay. Do you want to maybe come off camera? I don't know if you've got internet issues. Sorry to interrupt. Maybe come off camera. Thank you. Carry on.
Sorry, did you have a network outage? Yeah, it looks like I had a network outage. I'm sorry. Yeah. So yeah, the point I was trying to make was that we did not have to write any of this dialogue. We did not have to prescribe any of this. All we did was in the GPT manager, we imported the service which created this prompt. And then you can customize it. If you want to say, hey, if you're confident about the gender, don't ask that question. Right? You can test that or any other kind of prompt that works for your organization needs. Right? You can create global rules like this, which say always be using an empathetic language, a positive language. Look at this one, always answer in the user's language. So this is something we just discovered in the latest GPT-4 Omni model. You literally have to shout at it. That's why always is in caps to insist to use the user's input language, right? So auto translation is handled by a prompt. Again, there is no code to write. There is no additional translation API to call. The LLM will take care of the translation for us, right? And then the other thing I want to show you here is the knowledge sources, right? That you saw a knowledge answer when I had pulled up the screen. So the knowledge sources are again just a checkbox, right? You simply pick the knowledge source that is relevant to a skill. So maybe your HR articles live on SharePoint. Maybe your security knowledge lives on Confluence. Maybe your other knowledge lives here, right? So you can then bring those knowledge articles through with a checkbox, right? There's a little bit of setting here. If I go back to the settings UI again, here we are going to configure the API service providers, no code, just a simple API key setup. Setting up the information sources is also a very similar, add a connection button, and you go through, the details. In every manner possible, we have tried to make this very easy to implement, right? Without having to go through like an API expert or security connectivity tests, anything, right? So it's very easy to configure this. So if I go back to my chatbot here and I know I had an outage, so I have to refresh it. And right here, I can also, for example, I can say something like, what is our maternity leave policy, right? And now, remember, it's going through a chain of prompts. The router prompt decides this is a knowledge query. It goes to the knowledge prompt. The knowledge prompt says, let me look in our embeddings model of our different checkboxes that we have selected if there's an answer related to this. So that's why there's a little bit of a think time to fetch all that data. And then it's going to summarize it based on the instructions that we have given to it, right? So am I still online? Yeah, so this came back, right? Now, of course, this is not the BMC policy. It's more of a generic policy. But, I can click through as a user. I can easily click through and read the entire policy, but it has been nicely summarized for me, 0 effort, right? You update your knowledge article on a regular daily or other batch basis. We fetch the changes. We update the embeddings model. These answers are always or almost instantaneously fresh, right? So again, no effort to maintain the knowledge articles in this system, right? And we also have a word flag. So if you want to enable, how do I install Office on my phone, you could turn that flag on and it will go look outside in the LLM knowledge that Des had shown, and it'll try to answer that question, right? So let me try if that works here. How do I install Outlook? So this was the Helix GPT Manager that people have been seeing. As I mentioned, this continues to become, they're improving it. More and more of our applications, for example, business workflows has added use cases. So caseworkers can ask questions. ITSM has added use cases. So service desk agents can ask questions about incidents like, how do I close this case? Who should I escalate this case to, and so on, right? So that's all being built out. These are early releases of those features in those applications, and they will be extended further, right? Sorry, let me just go back to this one, right? And if you see this one, it came back with an answer. It did not give a source because that's a generic LLM answer. So if it meets your security needs and your thresholds for sanity around the GPT answers, you can turn this flag on or off again, right? The other thing I want to call out is this text, right? If you're not satisfied, please file a ticket using create support ticket. Any kind of fallback is controlled through the prompt. So somewhere in the prompt, you can say, if you don't like this answer, please rephrase your question and I'll try to get an answer, right? Or you can insert something like, if the user is upset or using profanity, then transfer them to a live chat agent, right? And all of that can be controlled through the LLM's decision-making skills. So I want to show you one more thing that is coming up in the future, which is our versioning UI. So this is what we are right now developing, where you will have a version 1 of a prompt, but you will now be able to create second versions. And in those versions, you will be, of course, taking the V1 and copying it over to your V2 and possibly compare it quickly, right? And then you will be able to test it right here before you save it and publish it, right? So this is some of the stuff we are adding. There is more UI around testing as well. So test an entire skill. Maybe if I go back here to the GPT Manager, where you have different, let me take chatbot, virtual agent, I have the skill, I have GPT-4 Turbo. Hey, GPT-4 Omni Mini just came out. It's 1/6 the price. Let's test that, right? So you will be able to choose that and run a automation test needs of your organization. And then if it works, let's switch over to GPT-4 Om Mini, right? Prompt changes as needed, right? As based on the answers. So this prompt and testing UI will be released across, starting in the November release and then going forward. You will see more and more of this testing versioning features being added to the system, right? Okay. So by the way, one thing I want to show here before I move on is the Azure pricing calculator. So if you're wondering how much is this going to cost us to have a Azure GPT license, right? That price is really dropping very fast. So if you look at, I've selected Sweden Central here, but you could equally take West US or any of these other, the pricing is the same. And GPT-4o, if I have, this is 1.5 billion conversations, right? So most of the messages, right? When I send a message, you saw the prompt, right? Let me go back to the prompt. So you saw these prompts. The prompts are yay big, right? That's input tokens. What comes back in the chatbot is the response. That's the output. That's smaller, right? So when we go to the Azure pricing calculator, we take a ratio, 2:1, 3:1. We can experiment with that. And we say, let's take a higher input and lower output tokens. And this is per 1,000 tokens, right? For 1.5 billion tokens, like 500,000 conversations, right? 500,000 messages is going to be $1,250. So that's, and the 4o Mini that just announced last week, that's 1/6 this price. Google Gemini is already 1/10 of this price. So I think the call to action here that I'm trying to make sure is GPT Manager, virtual agent, and other applications of BMC are fairly mature right now. We have a number of customers that are a month or so away from live deployments, right? This is actively testing. We have a customer success team that is available to help you adopt Helix GPT. So if you can contact your account managers, your partnership managers, and say, hey, we want access to this Helix GPT Manager tool, please upgrade our dev environment to this latest version, the 23.3 series. And let's talk about the security aspects to get an Azure API key, right? So you can plug in an Azure API key here, and then you can start testing it, right? It's very quick to start testing this, right? That's the next thing. And then if I go back to my PPT here, for some reason it has gone out of, yeah. So you saw the prompt manager. I had this as a backup, as a video. And what I want to show you next is a mock-up of the upcoming UI changes we have, right? So this is going to play as a video. So on the digital workplace portal, when you search, it will morph into a search UI. So this is currently in controlled availability. You can test it out. But what I'm showing on screen is like some mock-ups of what the UI improvements may look like, where it could have related topics to your chat coming up, right? The buttons may become more richer, right? And other things. So this is, again, I keep going back to like a design partnership. And we have Angela on the call who will talk about that at the end. But we are talking to a few of our customers to iterate through this and make this a better UI in the future, right? The next thing, I'll skip. This is the live chat summarization feature. Just to quickly play this and just show a screenshot here. Yeah, so somebody had a conversation on the left, right? And if I just pause it here, you see this orange box, that is the Helix GPT summary. So when you have a conversation with the chatbot, or you have a long conversation with an agent and you're transferred to another agent, right? Or your chat is finished and you need to generate a summary. This light orange box is the summarization, that the prompt you had seen earlier, which is then giving the answer, okay? Now on the roadmap, this is where the exciting magical stuff is, right? This is in development right now. So what if you could go to your Innovation Studio application builder and give it a natural language instruction to build an app, right? And you can say, I want to create a workflow for onboarding vendors, right? And now based on what we have trained it using our modules and our data, it goes through a workflow, right? And it has a workflow which says CFO. So we said, okay, take out the CFO from this workflow, right? What about the third parties we need in this? So knowing what third parties you're using, the system will now, okay, let me add Oracle to this workflow, right? Can you also add a vendor to my SAP, right? And we'll make an outbound call to SAP. So these, the goal is to give you a starting point very quickly, and then you can customize it as you need further, right? Of course, as the technology improves, as the LLMs improve, we expect this to become more and more robust out of the box itself, right? Now, the next one, if any people have joined the data science dashboard call earlier, so this is on the dashboard side, right? So dashboards has been tricky. There are canned reports, again, out of the box reports that we provide out of the box, but clients can create their canned reports. I'm like, if I go in there and like, how do I query this system, right? It's a pain. So instead of querying the system through SQL queries, you query it in natural language, right? You will have a similar Ask Helix GPT chat. So this is a very early stage mockup. Remember that legal disclaimer, things are subject to change. So, but this is a mockup of, well, you might actually have that same chart right in this chat UI, correct? And you could then go ahead, let me skip a little bit to the next part. You could then say, who is my highest performing agent, right? Based on this filtering, right? And that is generating a dynamic query at runtime, fetching the data and giving you the answer, right? And then it could have an eventing connection to the background where you can see those related charts and reports. So this is a vision of a Helix GPT data scientist as an agent, right? It's not a prompt-driven static kind of system, but more dynamic, so to speak, right? So going forward, what are the kind of simplifying the differentiators, right, for us? So first of all, it's a very hands-free setup, like you have already seen. It's already connected to your Helix products. It's you don't have to lift a finger, right? It's all just check click box, and it's a very open approach. So you can bring in the AI provider of your choice very soon. So if it's Google or it's Azure, you'll be able to do that, and you can retire your quotas that you have, or the best rates you're getting from whichever vendor. And of course, it's going to be connected to our AI Ops product, so that can improve the collaboration on the networking side of things, right? The machine side of things, and it will be deployable anywhere, right? And of course, it's a overall, it will be, our goal is to reduce your cost of ownership, right? Okay, so let me transfer to Angela for this last bit to be a design partner. Angela.
Yes, hi everyone. So I lead our UX research team here at BMC. And what we do is we capture feedback and learn about our customer needs in details that are focused on various new features, processes that are coming forth. What we would love is to have you sign up to be a design partner. You can scan this QR code here. You'll also receive a link that's going to be sent in the thank you email after this webinar. So if you go to the next slide, I'll let you see a bit about what it's about. What does it mean to be a design partner, right? So when you're a design partner, you're able to collaborate in various ways together with our product management team, our UX team, data science teams, engineering teams. You get to participate in things like research and POCs and beta programs. And you get to primarily discuss your needs, gaps, and provide feedback, right? As we are putting together and creating these new experiences for you, you get an early preview, a sneak peek, sort of in the early designs. You get to voice what your needs are and actually have influence in what gets developed, right? So we do this together with multiple customers and identify, the key trends and needs across customers. So it's really, really important for us to get your feedback. And I'm sure it's important for you to make sure that our tools are meeting your needs as well. The way you sign up, you'll get a link, in the email, or if you were able to capture that QR code, all we need is a contact from you. And then once we have that, we will send you an email, maybe once a month or every 2 months, about activities that are related to some of your interests, right? And then you can simply agree to participate or not. You can ignore them and wait for another one to come up your way. We'd be really grateful for your participation. So thank you so much.
Okay, over to you.
Thank
Sam.
you, Angela. So just a couple of reminders. We've got some additional resources, so don't worry about taking these links down. We will be sharing the slides. I know common questions from customers are, where do I find all this content, or you can't find anything in documentation. So I'm working closely now with our documentation team. So where possible, we'll be including some useful links. So these will be hopefully help you get a bit more information on GPT. And then the final slide, Madhav, if you just move to that, it's just a list of the past recordings and the next session that we've got. Des and I will be running a session with our AI Ops product director, Yaron, and we'll be focusing on that in August. And then we will have further sessions coming up, which I'll share on every webinar that we do. But if you missed any of our sessions, you can see them at the bottom. They're now on demand. And also from today, we will ideally get this out to you at some point tomorrow so you can watch back. Any questions, please put feedback into the survey. Hopefully you've enjoyed it today. So thank you, Madhav, Des and Angela, for supporting this webinar, and hopefully our customers have found it useful. We have like 10 minutes or so towards this end. If anyone has any questions, I do see that we've got a question in the Q&A. Roger has asked a question, and Des, I can see you answering it. So if we could just pick that back up, and Roger, if you want to come off mute and say hello, we can recap your question. And Des, back over to you if that's okay. Just while I mute everyone.
Perfect.
Can you hear us, Roger? I can see you've come off mute.
All right, so I'll recap. So there was
please.
3 questions that we had in the chat. We'll start with Roger's. Roger's was the last one. So the question is, will there be a course available for GPT in the near future? So absolutely, we've just released an educational course for BMC Helix GPT fundamentals on the BMC website. I'll put the link in the chat, so feel free to sign up for that and go through that process.
And I've also actually put it out, Des, on the webinar page, and I'll make sure that's included in the thank you email that goes out as well.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Cool. Working up the list, there was another question. What prerequisites are there for Helix GPT to be onboarded? Simply put, in order to get Helix GPT, you need at least 23.3. I'll put there patch 2, which is probably one of the better patches to have to enable Helix GPT. You also need an AI provider such as OpenAI or Azure OpenAI or Vertex as well.
Only Azure OpenAI right now.
Oh, yeah, Azure OpenAI. Okay, there we go. And then
Azure OpenAI, and we recommend the GPT 4.0 or 4 Omni model.
Yeah, perfect. And then obviously you need to have data, right? So in the platform, ticket data, knowledge data, and search request data, and then you can get up and running. We can get you going quite quickly just with that simple amount. Okay. Last question is from Amutha asking about what if an organization does not have an Azure license or any AI license and is not interested on any additional costs? Does that mean GPT is a no for them? And what are the minimum features they can get out of HVA with GPT without the external sources?
So Helix GPT is just the natural language engine. In the past, HVA was using IBM Watson as a bundled natural language provider. We were kind of reselling that to you, right? But because of the GenAI security and privacy ramifications, we cannot resell Microsoft licenses to you. So if you cannot procure Azure or Gemini in the future, then you can continue using Watson for your HVA. And whenever you're available to use Azure, then you can plug it in.
Okay. The other thing I'd say, right, is obviously with the additional costs, we need to be aware that the cost of the human being involved in this process, from an agent perspective, from a virtual agent perspective, and being trying to find information, is often a lot more expensive than a few tokens that are being sent to an AI. So, like Meredith was showing earlier, the cost of AI is dropping dramatically all the time. And even if you're spending $1,000 a month on tokens, if you compare that to a few people's time and effort, you'll be offsetting that in no time quite easily. So you got to bear that in mind.
Yeah. So our clients that have large Watson-based chat deployments, right? They are the ones who are first moving to Helix GPT, because even though there is a additional cost, like I showed for the Azure API, that's 10 times lower than the human hours of writing the dialogue, training the system, and so on, right? So I saw there's another question from Amutha. Amutha, if you can.
Can you hear us, Amutha? You're off mute. Hello? I don't know if maybe he can't talk.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Hello.
Sorry. I initiated that mute on my laptop as well. So sorry.
Double mute.
Yeah. So I know that I've been silly asking this question of that license cost, etc. Because I heard your suggestion of you can stay on IBM Watson. What about we have not gone into that at all? We have the very basic DWP with no live chat, no HVA at this point of time. We do have we do have a license. We have this product, but there is an internal cost applied as well. It doesn't come free based upon the volume and traffic. So it will be a cost that we have to do.
You mean there's internal pricing?
Internal cost budget involved as well. So our the business question from the business is, what can we achieve if we don't get that provided? The budget available, what can we achieve with the HVA? Can we get the basic live chat or the
live chat is bundled,
etc.
Yeah, live chat, the human live chat is bundled with Digital Workplace Advanced, and there is no additional cost for that or dependency on any GPT.
Don't need any external search engines or anything for that, right? So we can without the OpenAI or the external provider, we can still get the live chat and chatbot. Is that right?
No, chatbot is a separate SKU. It's either sold as Helix Virtual Agent, Suite Advanced SKU. So we can, if you reach out to your account management team, they can help you understand that.
Okay. So if we have to go on with OpenAI, so that will cover everything, right? The translation, the LLM that we are talking about. So everything comes under this one provider,
Yes.
OpenAI license. Is that right? Okay.
Correct.